Welcome to Item Breakdown, a series where I analyze every single item in Mario Maker 2, go over their properties, and find interesting ways to use them in our own levels. This video is all about the Spike Trap.
It's a trap!
A Spike Trap is a terrain asset available in the 4 classic game styles. It is 1x1 tiles in size, solid, stationary, and indestructible. A Spike Trap will damage Mario if he comes into contact with it. If Mario is wearing a Buzzy Beetle or Spiny Shelmet, he will be immune to Spike Trap damage from above. If Mario is riding a Drybones shell, Yoshi, or Goomba Shoe, including any of their variants, he will be immune to Spike Trap damage from below. And if Mario is under the effects of a Superstar power-up, he is completely immune to Spike Trap damage. If a Koopa Clown car comes into contact with a Spike Trap, the vehicle will become temporarily uncontrollable and wobble away in a random direction for a moment. This occurs whether the vehicle is occupied or not. Mario also does not take damage from a Spike Trap while inside a Koopa Clown car unless he comes into direct contact with it. One-way walls, semi-solids, and seesaws overlapped with the Spike Trap will have priority over it, preventing Mario from taking damage from the Spike Trap. Lifts and lava lifts, however, do not. Finally, a Spike Trap becomes slippery in the Night Snow theme. So, now that we know how it works, how do we work with it? While Spike Traps might be incredibly simple to understand, I would argue that they're fairly difficult to use properly. This theory is reinforced by the amount of levels that look like the creator just puked them all over everything without much thought. I get that, functionality-wise, filling in terrain with nothing but Spike Traps is no different than just having Spike Traps along the outside. But objectively, this just looks better than this. I'd also like to point out that, as well as from a gameplay standpoint, this many Spike Traps in a level might not be necessary. The placement of a Spike Trap creates an instant challenge, however, not an interesting one. What makes the Spike Trap shine is the challenges that surround it, and how its placement affects how the player must go about avoiding it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. A static, indestructible terrain block that causes damage is an incredibly important tool. It's not all about creating challenges either, as it could be used simply to prevent the player from bringing power-ups past a certain point. It's also a good way to avoid entity limit restrictions. While I would very much recommend using enemies that fit within the theme of your level instead, sometimes that's just not feasible. Just make sure to keep that in mind, because in my opinion, a floor of Munchers looks a lot more interesting than a floor of Spike Traps. Finally, let's talk about hitboxes. Spike Traps are notorious for misleadingly large hitboxes in comparison to their sprites. This makes for a frustrating experience when the player is almost positive that they avoided touching it, but the game decides otherwise. If you're making a precision level, well, you've obviously got some deep-rooted psychological issues that I'd best not get involved with, so keep doing whatever you're doing if it makes you happy. If you're making any other kind of level though, just make sure to place your Spike Traps in a way that doesn't cause too much frustration. One way I've seen creators going about this is, one-ways. If the purpose of your Spike Trap is to stop the player from walking on a surface, but there's a chance they might hit it from the side, placing a one-way wall behind it will make the challenge much more forgiving. Or, of course, you could just move the Spike Trap to a different, less obnoxious spot. Sometimes the best use of a Spike Trap isn't to be a constant source of death, but to instill the fear of death into the player. And that's just the point of this pronged ploy. If you're looking for more inspiration, check out another one of these item breakdowns. A huge thank you to my patrons and YouTube members for making this series possible, and I'll see you in the next one.